I was still finishing my sentence when the CEO's male secretary cut me off. "That's not the direction we're taking anymore," he said, calm and confident, as if the decision already belonged to him. I looked at him slowly. "You don't have the authority to make that call." Around the table, a few heads lifted. This wasn't on the agenda. This wasn't his place. He didn't back down. "I'm speaking on behalf of the CEO." That was the moment the air changed. "My name is Jolie. I am 42 years old, and I had spent the last 8 years building the operational backbone of this company in Seattle, fixing systems no one else wanted to touch, cleaning up messes that never reached the board because I stopped them first." I turned to her. "Is that true?" The CEO didn't look at me right away. When she finally did, there was no hesitation. "You've become difficult," she said. "You push back instead of adapting." "I push back when something will break the company," I replied. "That's my job." She stood up. "Effective immediately," she said, her voice steady. "Jolie is terminated from her role. Andrew will assume responsibility for operations." For a second, no one breathed. "You're firing me," I said quietly. "This is a business decision," she replied. "Human resources will handle the rest." Andrew didn't look surprised. He didn't look at me at all. I waited, for context, for justification, for anyone to speak. No one did. I closed my notebook, reached for my laptop, and stood. Chairs creaked as people shifted, suddenly unsure where to look. I didn't explain myself. I didn't argue. I walked out the way I was told to. Behind me, the door shut. And in that silence, the company made its first mistake without me. The story you're about to hear is a fictional narrative created by the Her Revenge writing team. While the characters and events are imagined, the power dynamics, professional conflicts, and consequences are inspired by real situations faced by women whose authority is questioned, erased, or underestimated. This story is about what happens when competence is dismissed, and what it costs to remove the person holding everything together. By the time I reached the hallway, the argument replayed itself in my head with a clarity that hurt. He hadn't hesitated, not once. Andrew hadn't checked his notes or looked to the CEO for confirmation. He spoke like someone who had already been practicing the role. I stopped outside her office. The door was half closed. "Come in," she said, before I knocked. I stayed standing. "How long?" She didn't pretend not to understand. "How long? What? How long have you been preparing him to take my job?" She folded her hands on the desk. "That's not how I see it." That wasn't an answer. She exhaled, annoyed now. "You've been pushing back on every change I try to make." "I've been stopping bad decisions," I said. "There's a difference." She leaned back. "Andrew understands where I want this company to go." "Andrew understands how to repeat what you say," I replied. "He doesn't understand the systems. He doesn't understand the risk. He understands loyalty." That word landed harder than the firing. "So this is about obedience," I said. "Not competence." Her expression hardened. "This is about evolution, and you've made it clear you're not on board." "I built the structure you're standing on," I said. "Every process, every safeguard you don't even see. You didn't hire me to agree with you. You hired me to keep this place running." She stood, not in anger, in dismissal. "The decision has been made," she said. "I suggest you focus on your transition." I nodded once. "Then you should stop pretending this was sudden." She didn't deny it. Andrew's name was already on internal drafts. His access had been expanded weeks ago. Meetings I'd been excluded from suddenly made sense. This wasn't a reaction. It was a replacement plan that finally reached daylight. "I'm not asking for anything," I said. "No statement, no defense." "Good," she replied. "That will make this easier. For you." I said. I turned toward the door. As I left, I understood something with painful precision. This wasn't personal emotion disguised as business. It was business that no longer had room for me in it. And that meant whatever came next had already been set in motion. Human resources was already waiting. "Jolie, please have a seat," the woman said, sliding a folder across the table. Her nameplate read Karen Mills, and her voice carried the careful tone of someone trained to sound neutral in moments like this. "I'm fine standing," I said. She opened the folder anyway. "This is your exit packet, standard documents, severance terms, and a non-disclosure agreement we'll need you to sign before you leave the building." I glanced down without touching it. That agreement wasn't part of my original contract. It's company policy, she replied. Given your role, leadership felt it was appropriate. Leadership already made its decision, I said. I don't need to make this easier for them. Karen hesitated. If you don't sign, it may complicate. I'm not here to explain myself, I said, or to protect anyone else. She closed the folder slowly. At least let us issue a statement. Something internal. People are asking questions. That's not my responsibility anymore. Her eyes flicked up, searching my face for anger, panic, anything she could document. I gave her nothing. In the hallway, a few people pretended to be busy. One of them whispered my name, another started to speak, then stopped. Silence followed me the way noise usually did when something broke and no one wanted to admit it. I passed Andrew near the elevators. He opened his mouth, then thought better of it. He didn't look relieved. He looked uncertain. I reached my office and picked up my laptop. Nothing else. Not the framed photos, not the notebooks, not the emergency binders I had built for problems no one else knew existed. At the elevators, Karen caught up to me. You're really not going to say anything? I met her eyes. No. The doors closed. As the numbers changed, I felt the weight of what I was leaving, but not the collapse they expected. Silence was the only thing they hadn't planned for. And as I stepped out of the building with my laptop under my arm, I understood exactly what I was taking with me. I stepped into the lobby without slowing down. My body moved on habit, even though my thoughts hadn't caught up yet. Jolie? I stopped. The voice came from a black sedan idling near the entrance. The window lowered just enough to show a man in his late 50s. Silver hair, calm expression. He looked like someone used to being listened to. I don't believe we've met, I said. We haven't, he replied. But I know exactly who you are. I adjusted my grip on my laptop. Then you already know this isn't a good time. It's the only time, he said. My name is Daniel Mercer. The name landed. I'd seen it in reports. Private equity, long horizon investments, not the kind of people who showed up by accident. I've been evaluating your company for months, he continued. Not the brand, the mechanics. I don't work there anymore. I know, he said. I was inside the building when it happened. I didn't respond. They didn't fire an employee, Daniel said. They fired infrastructure. That got my attention. You were the system, he went on. The reason projects stayed on schedule. The reason regulatory issues never reached the board. The reason vendors stayed loyal even when margins tightened. I laughed once, short and sharp. You're very confident for someone who just watched me get escorted out. I'm confident because I watched who spoke in that meeting, he said, and who didn't. I waited. They chose the loudest voice, he added, not the one holding everything together. I'm not interested in sympathy. Good Wento, he said. I'm not offering any. He opened the door. I'm offering you a conversation. Private. Strategic. No commitments. And if I say no, then I drive away, he said. And they keep pretending they didn't just remove the one person who understood how their operation actually worked. I looked back at the building. The glass reflected nothing useful. I have 10 minutes, I said. Daniel nodded and slid over. As the door closed, I realized something unsettling and precise. This wasn't rescue. This was timing. Daniel didn't start with condolences. He opened a slim folder and set it between us. I'm going to be direct, he said. Your former company's valuation rests on processes no one there can explain without you. That's not my problem anymore, I said. It will be, he replied. For them. I stayed quiet. You designed the operational flow that keeps projects compliant across multiple states, Daniel continued. You built escalation paths that prevent delays before they surface. When vendors break deadlines, you absorb the shock before it hits clients. That's called doing my job. It's called carrying risk without credit, he said. And the man they put in your chair doesn't know how to do any of it. I shook my head. Andrew knows the language. He sat in enough meetings. He knows theory, Daniel said. He doesn't know execution. He'll ask for timelines that don't exist and approvals that violate procedure. And when things fail, he won't understand why. I thought of the safeguards I'd added quietly over the years, the workarounds, the calls I took late at night so no one else had to explain a mistake they didn't even know they'd made. They survived because I stayed. I said, yes, Daniel replied. And because you covered for them. He closed the folder. I'm not here to help you get revenge. I'm here because there's an opportunity to build something that doesn't rely on one person cleaning up after everyone else. I crossed my arms. You want me to start over? I want to fund you to build it right, he said. Proper structure, clear authority, systems that don't depend on silence. And if I say no, then they collapse slowly, he said. And you move on with a clean conscience. I looked out the window, then back at him. I'm not agreeing to anything today, Daniel nodded. I wouldn't trust you if you did. We sat there for a moment, not adversaries, not allies. Just two people acknowledging what had already been broken. The first call came 3 days later. Jolie, it's Mark, the voice said. Mark Ellis had overseen one of our largest regional partnerships for years. I hope this isn't inappropriate. It's fine, I said. What's going on? There was a pause. We just got a revised project timeline from Andrew, and it asks us to deliver approvals that legally can't happen in that order. I leaned back. Did he explain how he wants you to do that? He said the CEO signed off, Mark replied. But when we asked for documentation, he told us to be flexible. I'm not involved anymore, I said carefully. I figured, Mark said. I just wanted to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. You're not, I said. You should protect your side. The next call came that afternoon, then another the following morning. They want us to compress 6 weeks into 10 days. One contractor said, he doesn't understand compliance. Another told me, he keeps saying, this is how leadership wants it. A third added. Each time, I gave the same response. I can't advise you. You're not fixing this, someone asked. No. I said, I'm not. By the end of the week, Andrew's name started appearing in places mine used to be. Emails copied too widely, requests sent too late, decisions made without context. I ran into Karen from Human Resources outside a coffee shop. Things are tense, she said, like a warning. They should be, I replied. The CEO thinks you're influencing people, Karen added. That you're undermining authority. I haven't spoken to anyone inside the company, I said. If the system is breaking, it's because no one is holding it together. Karen studied me. You sound calm. I am. She hesitated. They didn't expect this. What did they expect, I asked. That everything would keep working. I nodded once. It did. Because I was there, and without me, the strain finally had room to show itself. What do people say when power suddenly stops protecting them? My phone rang just after dusk. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew the voice the moment she spoke. Jolie, the CEO said. She didn't waste time. We need to talk. I'm listening, I replied. This situation, she continued. The delays, the vendors pushing back, it didn't start until after you left. That's not accurate, I said. It started when you changed how decisions were made. You've been influencing people, she snapped. They won't cooperate. I haven't called anyone, I said. I stopped protecting you. There was a silence on the line, sharp and unfamiliar. You're sabotaging us, she said. No, I replied. I stepped aside. There's a difference. Her tone shifted. Let's be practical. Come back. We'll make it right. I'm not interested. We can adjust your compensation, she said quickly. Increase it. Restore your title. Give you full authority over operations. You gave that authority away, I said. In a meeting? In front of everyone. That was a mistake. It was a decision. She exhaled, slow and controlled. The board is nervous. They want stability. Then they should have kept the person who provided it. Her voice dropped. You're enjoying this. I'm building something else, I said. What's happening to you isn't my project. You can't just walk away from this, she said. I already did. Another pause. Longer this time. If you don't return, she said, we'll have to explore other options. You should, I replied. Because I'm not one of them. She hung up without another word. I set the phone down and didn't feel the rush she expected. No triumph. No relief. Just a quiet certainty that the path she'd chosen no longer included me. And that whatever came next would move without my consent or my cover. What happens when incompetence finally leaves a paper trail? I heard about the audit from Mark before it reached the press. They brought in external compliance, he said. Full scope. That escalated quickly, I replied. It didn't, he said. It piled up. Missed deadlines. Contradictory instructions. Approvals logged without authority. Requests that violated state and federal sequencing rules. The kind of errors that never mattered before because someone had always intercepted them. That someone had been me. 2 days later, Karen from Human Resources called. Her voice was different, now measured, cautious. They're reviewing communications, she said. Meeting records, access logs. And I asked. And Andrew authorized changes he wasn't cleared for, she said repeatedly. I said nothing. The audit team asked who normally handled escalation, she added. Your name came up, but only in historical context, meaning they didn't find a single instance where you caused or concealed a violation. The next update came from Daniel. The board has questions, he said. Not about you. About her, I replied. Yes, he said. They approved decisions without verification, delegated authority without oversight, signed off on changes they didn't understand. What happens now, I asked. The investigation becomes internal, he said. And then public. By the end of the week, the company issued a statement about leadership review. No names yet, just language, controlled, careful. Andrew stopped responding to emails altogether. The CEO didn't call me again. When the report was finalized, my name appeared exactly once in a section outlining prior operational stability. No accusations, no implications, just a record of how things had functioned before they didn't. Karen sent a final message, no greeting. They can't find anyone to blame except themselves. I closed my laptop and let the silence settle. For the first time since that meeting, the story was no longer about who had spoken the loudest. It was about who had signed their name to the wrong decisions and left the evidence behind. Can a company survive after removing the person who made it work? The board's decision didn't come with drama. It came with a memo. Daniel forwarded it to me without commentary. I read it once, then again. The CEO had been removed effective immediately, her authority revoked pending final review. The language was precise, unemotional, no mention of betrayal, no mention of loyalty, just governance failure. Andrew's name appeared in the appendix, unauthorized approvals. The report stated, repeated delegation beyond scope. It listed dates, directives, and signatures. The industry noticed. Recruiters stopped calling him. Vendors stopped responding. By the end of the week, he was gone without a farewell message. Daniel and I met the following Monday. The board asked if you wanted to return. He said, I don't, I replied. He nodded. Then we moved forward. We finalized the partnership that afternoon. Clean terms, clear authority. A structure that didn't depend on one person absorbing risk in silence. I chose the name myself and signed the documents without hesitation. Clients followed quietly, not because I asked, but because they recognized stability when they saw it. One by one, they transferred projects. Their lawyers spoke to ours. Everything documented. Everything proper. Karen from Human Resources sent a short message. They're saying now that they should have listened to you. They did, I replied. They just didn't believe me. The former CEO tried to schedule a meeting through an intermediary. I declined. There was nothing left to explain. Weeks later, I walked past the old building on my way to meet a contractor. The lights were still on. The logo hadn't changed, but the rhythm was gone. They hadn't fired me. They had removed the person who made their decisions survivable, and then asked why nothing worked anymore. Real accountability doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives quietly, after the doors have already closed. I saw her once more, 2 weeks after the board vote. She waited in a small conference room I now used for client briefings. Her posture rigid, hands folded like she was bracing for impact. Thank you for seeing me, she said. I didn't invite you, I replied, sitting across from her, but you have 5 minutes, she nodded. I misjudged you. That happened a while ago. I thought replacing you would simplify things, she continued. I thought systems were interchangeable. They aren't, I said. People pretend they are because it's easier than admitting dependence. Her voice lowered. Andrew followed my direction. You gave him authority without understanding the cost, I replied. That part was yours. She looked down. I should have listened. You did listen, I said. You just chose the voice that agreed with you. Silence stretched between us. She broke it first. The board asked if you'd consider returning, she said. Not as you were, with more control. I shook my head. You didn't fire me. You removed the system that kept you alive. She flinched, but didn't argue. I'm not here to reclaim anything, I added. I'm here to move forward. She stood slowly. I hope you understand. None of this was personal. It always is. I said, when people decide who matters. After she left, Daniel stepped into the room. We're ready to finalize the next phase. Good, I said. Let's hire the right people. We signed the expansion papers that afternoon. New teams, clear authority, no silent fixes, no invisible labor. The work spoke for itself. Before I shut down my laptop, I wrote one sentence on a blank page and saved it where I could see it every day. The lesson I learned is simple when you are the one holding everything together. Never let anyone convince you that you are replaceable. Walk away with your value intact and build where it is respected.